The other day, I went to the gym to get my InBody done, which measures my body fat as well as my muscle mass. I hadn't taken this since December when I hit my weight loss goal, so it's been quite a few months. And I was honestly shocked to see that since December, I lost an additional over 2% body fat without even trying. And I have been doing things a little different since December. So today I wanted to share what I've been doing a little different and why I think I lost the additional 2% body fat while still actually increasing muscle mass, sort of on accident, but also who this strategy would work for and who it definitely wouldn't work for. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. And today's video is sponsored by Element. More on them in a bit. Okay, so currently I'm in my third phase of the body recomposition journey. I talked a lot about these 3 different phases in a previous video. I'll have it linked right up here as well as at the end of the video if you want to check that out. But the first 2 phases were really primarily focused on reducing body fat while minimizing any muscle loss. To quickly recap some of the tools I used during that phase 1 and phase 2, I cut out the addictive foods. I really focused on improving sleep quality. I started walking and then added in resistance training and eventually strength training. I made sure to hit my protein needs and I focused on low glycemic load foods primarily. All of these strategies helped me to lose about 20 pounds with almost all of it coming from body fat without having to count calories and without feeling hungry. These 2 phases were crucial for setting up this base for where I'm at now so that I could nourish my body while also still achieving my body fat loss goals. During that process, I also had to focus on rebuilding muscle mass that I lost during pregnancy and also during that immediate post-pregnancy time. This helped me to steadily rebuild my metabolism and improve my carb sensitivity as well, which remember that because that'll be important coming up. Once I hit my body fat loss goal, I switched primarily to focusing on muscle mass. This is really crucial for maintaining metabolism, but overall health too. There's been a lot of research coming out on how muscle mass is important for a lot of different health factors like heart health risk and obviously bone health as well. So I'm now building upon what I had already done in those first 2 phases of my body recomposition journey. And I'm also eating the same amount of protein to make sure I'm maintaining my muscle mass and helping to boost satiety and prevent sugar cravings. But the thing that's changed is that I've started to incorporate some medium and the occasional high glycemic load food. The medium glycemic load foods for things like sweet potatoes, I actually have been incorporating almost nightly now. And for the more nutrient dense high glycemic load options, it's been like 1 to 2 times per week. So practically what this looks like is that I'm consistently adding in sweet potato, occasionally some yellow potatoes, some lentils, beans, and occasionally red lentil pasta. And then sometimes for one of those more high glycemic load options that I include less frequently, I'll have something like a slice of real fermented sourdough bread. Although I don't usually have very many grains because they just don't do well with my gut in general. Now, all of these medium or sometimes high glycemic load options I'm only having at dinner. This is something that I talk a lot about in the complete intermittent fasting bundle. I focus on having these starchier ingredients more optimized to the evening so I don't get energy crashes during the day and I can help improve my sleep quality. Which you might be wondering, like, Autumn, why is it that you're adding in these medium or higher glycemic load foods? And the reason why is to provide extra recovery for my more intense workouts. As the intensity has gone up during this phase 3 portion of my body recomposition journey, my recovery needs have also drastically gone up too. But I haven't been loading up on these foods. There's a big difference between adding in 1 to 2 servings of medium or high glycemic load foods per day versus true carbo loading. Definitely don't want to get those confused because that is not what I'm doing. I've done that in the past when I was more focused on endurance training and that wrecked my GI tract, it wrecked my blood sugar levels. Overall, it just made me feel horrible. Instead, I'm still keeping that base. I'm still having the low glycemic load foods as the priority. I'm having the high quality proteins, but I'm just adding in some of these more nutrient dense medium or higher glycemic load options in just one of my meals per day. So fast forward to when I was getting this InBody done, which again measures muscle mass and body fat. I wasn't really expecting to see further fat loss, but I was pretty shocked to see that my body fat went down by an extra 3.2 pounds and my body fat went from 22.4 to now 20.3%. So down 2.1%. So how did this all happen? I have some theories as well as who this will work for and who it won't. But first I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Element. Element is an amazing electrolyte company. And because I am on my body recomposition journey and actually focus on exercise in addition to eating whole nutrient dense foods, I've really had an increased need for electrolytes. But even those who are eating more whole food and less processed in general tend to still need high quality sources of electrolytes. Element contains the sodium, the magnesium, and potassium to help replace those lost electrolytes all without having any sugar. I'll use anywhere between 1 to 2 packets of Element per day, depending on how much I've exercised that day or how hot it is. And I just feel so much more energized, so much more hydrated when I've actually had Element, which I always keep these packets with me everywhere I go. My personal favorite is their grapefruit salt, but they have a lot of other delicious flavors like their raspberry and their orange salt. And right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single-serve packets free with any Element order. It's a really great way to test out all 8 flavors, so you can get yours at drinkelement.com/autumn. It's only available through my link, so make sure to check out drinklmnt.com/autumn. The link is also in the description down below. Okay, so here's why I think this actually worked for the phase that I'm at. First of all, this would not have worked during the first 2 phases of my body recomposition journey when I was primarily focused on reducing body fat. And this is likely because I had lost so much muscle post-pregnancy, because when you lose muscle, you actually are much more carb sensitive, which means that the body's less able to handle carbohydrates. Carbs are often stored in the muscle in the form of glycogen. So when we have more muscle, we actually have like more storage space for those carbohydrates to go. And when we have less muscle, we have less storage space for those carbohydrates, which means those starchier carbs can have a bigger impact on our blood sugar levels too. So if I incorporated these foods during that first or second phase of my body recomposition journey, it probably wouldn't have had the same effect. And from my experience of working with clients all around the world, I also don't think it would work for most people in that phase 1 or phase 2 portion of body recomposition either. But now, like 7 months later along my body recomposition journey, my body is in an entirely different place. I've scaled up to about 3 days per week of heavier strength training, as well as 2 days per week of some core training. But it's this major shift in increasing the strength training portion that has made all the difference for my carbohydrate sensitivity and what my body can now handle. This is something I've talked a lot about on my channel, where when you have more muscle mass or when you are using more strength training, it gives you a lot more flexibility with the types of foods you can eat while still making progress toward your goals. I now have a bit more muscle mass on my body. My muscles are stronger, and so they're able to absorb that excess glucose, and therefore I have more flexibility with the type of carbohydrates my body can handle. A mistake I often see for a lot of people who get to this phase is that they add in poor quality processed carbohydrates instead. The medium and higher glycemic load carbohydrates that I'm adding in are still very nutrient dense. They also are ones that are not noted to be addictive, which is why I'm able to add these in strategically, enjoy them, but not have it work against my goals. The types of addictive, highly processed carbohydrates like various cereals and grain products with added sugars in them, those tend to lead to a more addictive spiral and make it really easy to eat well beyond the body's needs. In fact, this whole phased approach to body recomposition is so important. It's something that I'm talking a lot about in the upcoming 6-week summer meal plan. It's covering in-depth detail on body recomposition and how to incorporate these different foods depending on that phase that you're at. It also has a ton of new delicious recipes, 6 weeks of meal planning. I've been working on it for so long, about like 8 months now, and it's going to have a lot of new recipes. I'm so excited to release it. It's coming out very, very soon. So make sure you guys keep a lookout for that. It's the exact strategies that I use throughout my body recomposition journey. So I will be announcing it on YouTube once it does come out, but you can also subscribe to my free weekly newsletter, which I'll have linked down in the description below so that you can be notified right when it's out. You definitely don't want to miss this one. Okay, I kind of already touched on this, but who this would and who this wouldn't work for. First, let's start off with who this wouldn't work for. First of all, someone who is carb sensitive or insulin resistant. Adding in medium or higher glycemic load starches at this point is probably not a good idea because the body is just not able to handle carbohydrates very well. Another is someone who has recently lost a lot of muscle mass. This could be due to something like inactivity or an injury, which leads me into the third person, someone who is just generally not very active. Same goes as the previous, you probably don't have the muscle mass to actually absorb and use those carbohydrates. In fact, even endurance exercise, if you aren't using resistance training, could lead to muscle loss. Also, someone who has a lot of body fat to lose. This means you're probably in that either phase 1 or maybe phase 2 portion of the weight loss journey, and probably would do better with focusing on those phase 1, phase 2 tools instead. Another person who probably shouldn't use a strategy is someone who either doesn't have their protein intake under control or who has a lot of sugar cravings. Eating more medium or high glycemic load foods can cause that spike and fall in blood sugar levels that could spike more sugar cravings, especially if you don't already have them under control. And then for the people who this would work for is first athletes. Athletes tend to have higher muscle mass and therefore have better carbohydrate control. Due to this, they have more of that glucose sponge that allows them to absorb those excess carbohydrates and sugars. This also could work for someone more in their phase 3 portion of their body recomposition journey. This was the case for me. It's still important to note this is not like a free-for-all to suddenly eat a lot of ice cream or baked goods or bagels or whatever processed carbohydrate you could think of. These are foods that tend to be very addictive and make it really hard to not eat beyond the body's needs. They also just don't very have much nutrition quality in them anyway. Instead, it's super important to focus on the high quality nutrient dense forms of the medium to high glycemic load carbohydrates, which I really dove deep into that 3-phase approach approach of body recomposition. If you want to check that out right here for those details. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.